This story about a Newcastle United fan who was banned from going to games. Why?
So this is a Newcastle United fan called Lindsay Smith. She's 34. She's been investigated for 4 months by a special unit set up, funded by the Premier League to unveil racism. She's a lesbian, and she's a Newcastle United fan, and she has been banned from going to matches because of her views on the issue about trans rights, and in particular posts that she made on X, Twitter, whatever we want to call it now, which have been collated in an 11-page dossier.
What, she's going to a football match?
Yes. So people are obviously banned from football matches for violence or for, shouting racism from the... quite rightly. So, first of all, this is not about racism, it's about trans rights. But secondly, it's not about what she's done in the ground. It's not... because it's about what she said on social media, I think unrelated to football, because obviously there are no out gay players, never mind any out trans players in the Premier League.
But in a world of football which is particularly not very friendly to gay people, she's a gay. She champions lesbian, gay and bisexual rights. These wretched people searched the bar she lives in to find anything she may have said, took images of where I walk my dog, Google images of the church there, the park. One section of the report titled Vulnerabilities, it detailed how she'd repeatedly been a victim of online abuse.
It's extraordinary.
What's to do with it?
And, of course, the irony is, although I think the investigation, to be fair, was conducted by the Premier League, but her club, Newcastle United, is owned by... Saudi Arabia.
Those well-known liberals.
Well-known liberals, where a haven of LGBTQI plus rights, I don't think.
Yes.
So, I mean, the irony is just beyond belief.
You're in big trouble.
Absolutely. Never mind... I mean, if you're a gay man, you're in trouble. Never mind being trans or anything else. So I think that's what I find particularly galling about it.
Who's given the Premier League the power to do this?
Well, it seems nobody, so she's suing them. So, frankly, it sounds like she's got a pretty good case to take from what we can hear.
So they would have spotted some tweet that they didn't like?
Yeah, somebody spotted a tweet, they've kind of dobbed them in. It's part of the sort of Stasi surveillance society.
Women-only spaces for women, Emma.
What on earth are the Premier
League
League doing in spying on our social media and on views like this? And the irony of this is that, yes, if they were following up planned violence, if they were really cracking down on football hooligans, what about the unrest that we saw at the Black Country Derby? Was it last weekend?
Yeah,
or the weekend before?
It last weekend.
Of course, if someone is expressing overtly racist views, if they're inciting violence, anything like that, and it is called to it's called to their notice, yes, of course, you can see that a ban and that monitoring their social media might be useful. But a woman who is expressing views, as you say, nothing to do with the football match, no suggestion that she was
and there's no suggestion she's hassled a transgender fan or anything. It's literally views outside of things.
She's not talking about it at the match.
No.
She's not holding...
Not as far as we can know.
Not holding banners, anti-trans views. It's absolutely ludicrous, isn't it?
She's basically done tweets that criticise the trans activist ideology. Yeah. And this
Who hasn't?
Is about the surveillance state, and it is about corporate interference and the thought police.
Yeah.
Basically stopping you going around your free business to go and watch a football match.
And also to hold views which don't conform with modern-day wokery.
Correct. Which, of course, none of modern-day wokery conforms with the views of the owners of the football club, which is owned by the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, which just I can't get away from.
The hypocrisy and the irony here is really breathtaking.
It's a hugely important point that this wretched club to compile an 11-page dossier. And they're owned by whom?
Yeah. We think the Premier League did the dossier rather than the club, but the club have gone along with it. Absolutely. The club have gone along with the ban. It's up to the club whether she's banned or not. So, absolutely. So, a club where, Andrew, you and I would be arrested in Saudi Arabia.
We would.
Bev and Emma would be facing a lot of restrictions, the most restrictions in the world on your freedoms in Saudi Arabia. And yet, if you post a view that somebody doesn't like about trans rights, you get banned from going to matches.
And is this the most important thing that's facing the Premier League?
Yeah, quite.
When you have a man being, carried across the pitch with his face bleeding and all of that stuff, all the unrest on the way to that match, the big derby. Come on.
And football violence is at its highest rate since 20 years.
Bear in mind that somebody inspired the Premier League assessing department, the spying department, to look at this one.
This is what's worrying, is that they think these are their priorities.
Absolutely.
Find out
the fact that so apparently the complaint that came out against this woman, Lindsay, this is from people, presumably trans people or trans activists, who said they would feel unsafe if they had to share a space with someone who was so openly transphobic. And they said that her posts were mocking of the trans
Don't go to the match, then.
So, exactly. So all of
this is a potential...
wanted wanted to go, or transgender people who wanted to go to the match, couldn't in case she happened to be in the stand with them and they would feel...
I mean, as a gay man,
woman.
but I would feel that, you know, I would feel that there were people... I don't think Lindsay would be the person I would be most worried about at a Newcastle United match, if I put it like that.
And how many people will be at a Newcastle match? 50,000, 60,000?
Yeah, 50,000.
She's going to feel unsafe?
So next to a lesbian supporter who's been openly supportive, as Matthew says, of gay, bisexual... This is absolutely ludicrous. And how many trans supporters were there at the match?
We've moved...
I'd love to know.
And she's been a supporter of that team since she was a little girl.
Yeah.
We've got to move on.